Welcome to Nitpicking Nerds, and today it's the Grading Staples series.
We're grading cards submitted by you.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, Beezy, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds, complete with Amber. If you want to support the channel and birthdays, because we are wishing happy birthday to everyone whose birthday is today, go to the link in the description for patreon.com.
Yes, that's the best way to support the Nitpicking Nerds. You do it directly. Other ways to support the Nitpicking Nerds indirectly include tcgplayer.com, affiliate link in the description below. Go there, buy the magic cards you were going to buy anyway, because guess what? We already know you're buying magic cards. So use our TCG player affiliate link, and guess what? We get a kickback, and you support the channel you love while buying cards for the game you love.
And the same is true for Amber's favorite link, the Dragon Shield link in the description. It's our affiliate link for EU or US people. Go there, buy the best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
And then we get a kickback on the order. It's as simple as that. Cherries, what are we doing?
Well, we're grading some, well, not staples today, but we're grading random cards submitted by the Discord. I added everybody in our little section called Cherry's Picks.
Yes, our server. No, it's our channel.
It's a channel in the Discord server. I added everyone. I said, hey, give me some cards. And these are the 20 cards we decided to give grades to.
And we're using letter grades, which means from F all the way up to A. A's are the best cards. You kind of need excuses not to play them, like Wombo, Mega Staples, some of the best cards in the format. B's are usually kind of cards that when you build around them or meet a certain restriction, they're like the best cards in your deck, but you have to do something usually to make them work. C's tend to be cuttable. They're kind of replaceable, totally fine. Filler maybe is a good way to describe a C. A D is sort of below average. We're really not looking to play these. Certain decks can take advantage of them, but it's definitely a niche thing if it's good, and usually it's just kind of not that good. And F's, we would just recommend never playing an F. We think it's basically unplayable, not literally, because you can put it in your deck.
Yes, we've changed a little bit with our F's. F's are really, really low now. We're never going to suggest that you put in the deck basically almost on a budget or almost anything. Basically, there's no case for F's. But D through A's have homes somewhere in some decks, even if necessarily we wouldn't play them. There's a card or two on this list that we gave D's that we're probably never going to put in a deck because of how we build decks. That being said, we still see that they do have potential homes in the format.
After all of that, let's get into the first one.
The first one, suggested by Imposing Crane. No, wait, Crane Imposing. It's reversed. Reflections. Ooh, get it? I reversed the name. It's a reflection of the name. Doesn't matter. Reflections of Lit Yara. We gave it a C. This is a card that says you pick a creature type when it enters, and whenever you cast a creature of that type, you get 2 of them. It's totally fine, and this card is going to perform well in your blue tribal list, but it's nothing special. It is a 5-mana do nothing, and it only works on cast.
There are so many tribal payoffs nowadays. There's a lot of good ones, and so many of them end up falling into the D range and the C range. I think this card's totally playable. There's nothing wrong with it. It will do work. Certain tribes love it more than others. The more you can actually cast with this, I wouldn't want to put it in a dinosaur deck, but I might want to put it in like a blue-green elf deck because you're going to get more actual triggers off of it. I don't want to copy a 5/5, but I want to copy 3 2/2s maybe.
Yeah, you probably want this in your deck with lots of VTBs and little graveyard synergy, which is niche for sure, but it will perform very well in those type of strategies. Being only on cast is the main weakness of this card, where you just don't get to, if you reanimate it, it doesn't work. If it goes anywhere else, anyway, if you flicker it, it doesn't work. It's unfortunate for this card, but it is still a fairly powerful effect.
And if you can populate tokens and get more of those after they're already in play, now we're talking.
Yeah, now you can get some value. Up next, Scarab God Zealot suggests Search for His Kanta. We give it a C+. This is a 2-mana enchantment, legendary, sits on the battlefield, surveil 1 each of your upkeeps. Then when there's 7 cards in your graveyard, it flips into a legendary land, which taps for blue, or you can pay 2 in a blue to look at your top 4 cards and put a non-creature, non-land into your hand.
We play this card a lot, and especially me because I'm always building towards its strengths. It doesn't just go in any deck. You want to be self-milling and fetching and putting cards in the graveyard so that on turn, if you play this on turn 2, you could get it to flip on like turn 4 or 5. That way, this ends up just being like Rampant Growth or Farseek, but it's blue, so we don't have that.
Yeah, it's a slow piece of ramp that is potential card advantage when you need it. It's the last thing you're going to use your mana on because it's not a great effect. 4 mana, look at the top 4, get a card. Not the best, but this is in a land slot, which, well, it's not really in a land slot. It's in an enchantment slot, I guess. But it's a land that's going to be doing it. So it's just a mana sink for when you don't have anything else to do. This lets you hold up counter magic, other like removal spells and all of that kind of stuff. And then if you choose not to use it, well, now you have your land to activate to go get an extra card in your hand.
This card is played very well, but you got to be self-milling. And it's not broken. It's just good.
You need to be, you need to, I think there's like you said, there's a couple of caveats actually. I think you want to be able to put a lot of cards in your graveyard fast. And I think your count of non-creature, non-lands has to be pretty high. If you're playing a 50-creature deck with 30 lands, then you don't want this no matter what, even if you are self-milling. Moving on, Yule Rumble sent us Replenish, which is a 4-mana sorcery that returns all your enchantments from the graveyard to play. We gave this one a B+ because guess what? This card is completely bonkers, but it requires a ton of synergy in your deck.
You got to be enchantments matters, and you got to be able to put enchantments or cards in your graveyard without necessarily just casting them and having them go in the old-fashioned way. I want some self-mill. I want enchantments that sacrifice themselves to be used again. This is just going to be game over. Like, when you build around this and you slam Replenish and you get back 20 things, the game's over.
See, I don't think you need the self-mill at all personally, but I do see what you're saying.
I want some.
Yeah, you do want some, but I think this, if you just have 30, 35 enchantments in your deck, you're probably just fine. Absolutely just tossing this in your deck because it's the most prominent type in your deck. I mean, just think of this for any other type. Like, it's completely insane.
We have it for some other types. We have, it's literally the exact same thing, Splendid Reclamation. It's for lands.
Yeah, and it's a really, really strong card in those lands deck. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I actually forgot about that. We don't have it for many types, so if this reads artifact or creatures without telling your opponents they can return them, oh my god, this card's bonkers.
So just build around it. Make sure that when you play it, it is this nuts card that they would never actually print, and then you're going to be golden.
Yeah, this card is so good. I mean, it's a reserve list card for a reason. $90 for a reason.
Next, Slayer wants to know about one of our least favorite cards in the entire format, Divine Intervention, 7 mana, and then you got to wait 2 turns, and if you do, the game's a draw. Nobody wins. Nobody loses. Game's just over. Nothing happened.
So I want to be very clear. F is unplayable, and we should just absolutely 100% never playing in a commander. This is the only example that I really think is an F-. Putting it in your deck is not just like, oh, it's like takes up a slot in your deck. It makes your deck worse. A deck needs to be designed, at least in some ways, in little bits of ways, to win the game. Now, obviously, group hug excluded, because that's a completely different conversation for another day. Decks are trying to at least win a little bit.
This card cannot take an action that moves you closer to winning.
It only moves you toward a draw.
Which is not winning.
Which is not winning the game. A draw is not winning. I get it. This is an achievement unlocked. But if you unlock the achievement, you didn't win.
Nope.
I argue with people that say they win with this card all the time. Now, I have one friend who plays it, and he knows it's a draw. He's like, I know, it's a draw. I'm fine with drawing the game. The other friend has said, I win. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You did the thing. It's a draw.
I think this is one of the examples of cards that if more people played it, it might be banned. Just because I think it goes entirely against the social contract of like what everybody actually sits down for. Which isn't actually something that factors into the power level of this card. The power level of this card is 0. It can't be not 0. It doesn't do anything at all except not win you the game. So it's definitely an F-.
Like you said about the thing that what's so miserable about it is invalidates the whole game. The whole game, everybody clawed and fought to try and win and get to a position to win the game. You know, they have fun. You know, maybe you're bantering back and forth, but all that, the game part becomes invalidated when someone just draws it.
Sakoli is suggesting Beanstalk Giant for us to go over. Beanstalk Giant is basically 2 and a green, go get a basic untapped, and then it sits in exile forever as a XX, where X is your lands. And eventually, maybe you'll cast it. For us, we definitely resolved the first half for the footsteps a lot, and then I've almost never cast Beanstalk Giant. Probably have this sitting in like a D+. It's ramp. It's not even the worst rate, but it's not 2 mana, so you can't cast it till later. So why not just play all the 2 mana ones?
This is one that falls into the category of it's in green and it's green ramp, and there's so much amazing and strong green ramp that you just never have to go to this. Now, is Beanstalk Giant a playable card? Absolutely. I mean, it's a card that can go in decks, and I can see the decks that you do want to put it in, but I'm going to avoid it most of the time because there's so much good 2 mana ramp. I mean, Rampant Growth is not this insane card. It's a card I don't play very often, but I think it's so much better than a Beanstalk Giant. Even though Beanstalk Giant is kind of the same rate, but it costs 3 mana, so you're never able to cast it on turn 2.
Yeah, I also want to say, this could go in decks that, hey, I'm interested in ramping, but I also have synergy with a lot of big creatures. Well, it's a big creature. It's like a 7/7 at least. So if you're interested in ramping and you want to give up like a few percentage points because you're getting them back with the actual Beanstalk Giant itself, well, that might be where this gets played.
I did try. I will admit to trying it in that exact scenario, and I
Still didn't like it.
I never casted it. Yeah, exactly. I put it into my Godzilla Stompy deck, and I played Fertile Footsteps 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, this is never the best thing to spend my mana on. I literally have to have nothing to spend my 7 mana on to want to play this vanilla thing that doesn't even have trample.
How about our user ELD who wants to know about Ink Shield?
Ink Shield's a cool card. I'm very high on the coolness of this card, and I've wanted to try it in a deck, but I haven't really found a home for it. Yeah.
What does it do?
It's a fog for you, but all the damage prevented, you get 2/1 flyers. Now, the weakness is fogs are not good.
Garbage.
Exactly, because fogs are bad, and we can say that confidently. We know they're not where you usually want to be. The upside of this one is it can take a potential swing at you for lethal and turn it into a swing at them for lethal, or even more, because if they send like the Kratos type thing at you, now all of a sudden they try and kill you and everyone else. Nope, I'll just kill everyone else and I win the game.
This is like a fog that actually gives you something. You get a thing out of it. After resolving a fog, you will say, I have something.
Yeah, and the thing about it that keeps it at a D, because the effect I think is decent if it's actually a fog. Fogs don't cost 5 mana.
Oh, how are you supposed to leave up 5 mana?
Oh, I know. I mean, I would love to try this card in a deck, like some sort of Esper deck that's always leaving up mana, because like that's the ideal situation for it. Where like I have ways to spend mana all the time, so leaving up a fog is not a problem. But overall, I can't find. I have not found the home for this. I think it will perform. This is a card when you play it, it will overperform like a ton of times. But look at the other times where it was rotting in your hand, because that's going to exist too.
Oh yeah, the win percentage when cast is high.
Exactly.
Except when are you casting it?
Yeah.
Just like comeuppance.
Win percentage in hand is low.
Right, very, very low. Next, the Xanathar says, here's a curveball in Nitpicking Nerds. Chains of Mephistopheles. I've had to read this card so many times, and I've only recently actually gotten a grasp on it, because it's never mattered in my daily routine, my life. If a player, including you, would draw an extra card, kind of like Narset once, then they don't do that. They rummage instead. They have to discard to then draw the card. Or if they have an empty hand, they just mill a card.
Yes. So Chains of Mephistopheles is a B-. This stops all extra card draw. So the decks you're going to play this in are going to be, Staxy type decks. This is, honestly, if this card wasn't expensive, this would be a staple of your Xur decks. This is going to be in your Xur deck every time. It's one of the things you're going to go get. Mm-hmm. It's super strong. It's a Stax type piece, but it does work against you, so you have to be playing in a deck that also isn't trying to draw a ton of cards, or else you're just going to hurt yourself.
Or even better, you just do something that replaces your draws. Like, instead of drawing, you look at the top 3 and pick one. Okay, I just get all my cards and you guys don't. The other thing is, it's definitely worse than just denying them the draw like Hull Breacher or Narset, because they still see a new card. You can't stop them from seeing a new card if they have a card in their hand. But with Narset, it just says you don't do it.
But another thing about it is, if they have 2 cards in hand and they want to keep both of them, they cannot. They have to rummage. They're forced into doing it, so they have to discard.
Right.
And then they have to draw. So you force them to do that. All right, username Makeout Hill suggests Leyline of Anticipation. This is Leylines say when they're in your opening hand, you can start with them on the battlefield, which is, that's pretty strong. This one specifically says that you can play all your spells as though they had flash.
I like this card better than Vidalcan Orrery. I don't really play these cards too much. I think they're okay. 4 mana for not a lot of payback in the first couple turns is a steep price. This one sort of has the extra allure of like, hey, 7% of the time or whatever, it's not 4 mana, it's 0 mana.
Yeah, exactly. The low, like one, it's higher than 7%, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Some percentage of games, it is in your opening hand, and you do just get to start with it in play. It's a solid C+. This card it does a lot, but you have to realize that on the same note, it doesn't produce anything by itself. It improves all of your other cards. So every single spell in your hand that you have is now improved, unless it was already at flash. It now has flash, which lets you get a little bit more oomph and let you play at instant speed, leaving up removal, putting stuff in and out of turn so you're not susceptible to board wipes. It's an improvement to how you play the game, but right away it doesn't have any impact. So casting this card feels bad. It feels like 4 mana don't impact the board at all is a tough spot to be.
Yeah, I feel like if you have a low creature and artifact count, this isn't really doing anything for you. If you can play most of your stuff at instant speed anyway, why do you need this? You just kind of don't. I think it's a C+. It's a totally solid card. It has done a ton of work, and it's been a brick.
You know where I think you could play this, BZ? You could play this in your Secret Commander Imperial Archangel deck.
Why is that?
Well, because it gives you ways to like play an instant speed and actually get the angel out like at end of turn and do stuff like that. Plus, it's an enchantment, and it's an Enchantress deck.
It is an enchantment. All right, I'll think about it. The Merc Muffin wants us to think about Autumn's Veil. Now, we know that Veil of Summer is a busted, dumb design and it's not broken in Commander. It's just unfairly designed, and it's very good. Autumn's Veil is not very good because it's literally, we looked 3 steps worse. So Autumn's Veil says, your permanents can't be countered by blue or black spells this turn, and your creatures gain hexproof from blue and black, or protection from blue and black. But Veil of Summer says, you draw a card if someone casts a blue or black spell this turn. Spells you control can't be countered at all this turn, and you and permanents you control gain hexproof from blue and black. This is like not a card I would ever play ever, so we're giving it an F.
Yeah, I think the fact that this does not cycle takes it from the point, like, the thing that takes Autumn's Veil the thing that takes the other card, Veil of Summer, from like a point of like, it's okay, maybe you'll play it, to great, is that it cantrips. And the fact that Autumn's Veil doesn't do that puts this in a range that I never, ever want to touch.
It's like in-game opportunity cost. What am I giving up by a card that cycles for 1? Like nothing. What about this? Oh, it just doesn't do anything, and I can't cast it, and it's just an extra card in my hand. It makes my opening hands worse. Ugh, get out of here.
Yeah, don't play Autumn's Veil in Commander. I think it's awful. F. Next, Pikmin Boy with an I, 69. Nice. Suggest Mind Slicer. Mind Slicer is a, was it 4/3?
4/3.
A 4/3 for 4. That's when it dies, each player discards their hand. Holy crap, this card's actually really, really good. You build your board early, you put this out, and then it dies. And then you realize, oh yeah, wait, let me look at my command zone. Yep, that's synergy with the graveyard. Let's get that on the battlefield. Well, no one has any cards in hand.
I love this card.
B+. B+ all day.
I've played it for years, and it's almost always game over. All you gotta do is play 4 mana and then just sacrifice it with Phyrexian Tower or Viscera Seer that you already played. And people are just at such a disadvantage, except for you, who's playing, Carrot or Marin, something that just is going to go, yeah, all right, you guys untap and then not play a spell or play your land that you drew, and I'm just going to play my commander. Maybe I'll play Mind Slicer again. Maybe I'll use it on your draw step now.
Yeah, this is a card that it does get a B+, but I don't think it has a lot of homes. Obviously, it is a huge disadvantage for you to discard your hand unless you're able to distinctively use your graveyard, which is, there's probably 5 to 10 really good commanders at doing that.
I don't know. Is it a huge disadvantage to just discard your hand? If you're ahead on board, I will happily just have every player just discard their hand.
That's fair, but you have to. The thing is, I want to play this in a deck where I don't have to be ahead on board.
Yeah.
That's where you want to be with it, and that's not a ton of decks, but the decks that want it, oh my god, it's insane in those decks.
Yeah, I think this card's just really nasty and really, really, really good. I wonder if you could just put this in deck and go, no one's attacking me.
This is such a mean card. It's not a card. It's a card I would avoid in my casual decks almost always.
It's not very casual, but it is very good. Discord user Bowtie throws in Grim Hireling into the mix for discussion. This is another 4-mana card, except I don't even know what's going on. I went my whole life thinking this thing gave you 1 treasure every time you hit a player.
It only came out 6 months ago.
I was like, oh, you can get 3 treasures a turn. That's insane. That's really good. Now Joe's like, wait, it's 2. You get 2 treasures every time. So you can get 6 treasures just for hitting everybody with a stupid flyer or token or 1/1 for 1 unblockable creature. This card is nuts. I don't like cards like this because they just kind of pushed it a little too far. It would have been just fine at 1.
It seems pushed a little too far, but I think the card is just solidly good.
It's a great card.
And even though it is a great card, it does require you to deal combat damage and get through. I think this card is just a great design and maybe even better than the B. It's a card that we have not had the opportunity to test. And because we haven't had the opportunity to test it, it's tough for us. I know this card is at least a B from everything I've heard, seen, and know about this card.
But it could go up to A-.
But it could just go up to A- to A because this card doesn't need this. What is this build around? Oh, do you have creatures in your deck?
Probably.
Oh, yeah. Most decks have creatures in your deck. I think this card just has super, super high potential, and we're going to stay at B for now because we haven't tested it, but maybe in the future it'll go up. It turns the treasures into removal, too.
Didn't this break through in CDH?
Yeah, it has broken through.
That's usually a good sign.
In Timna-type list where you play. Because if you already want to do that plan with Timna, so why not just add Grim Hireling to the next part of the curve?
I'd rather have this. Jesus, Curtis is really, really good. Allison says, Commune with Lava. How about that one? I like this card. I've always liked this card. It kind of is really close to a red version of X, red, draw X. Because you always cast the most relevant cards. So even if you slam it for X7, You're only going to get like 4 or 5 things off of it. But you're going to get the best 4 or 5 things off it. I like this card a lot, especially in budget brews. But in general, I think we have it like a C.
Yeah, I'm a little lower on it, but obviously we agreed upon C together. We're the Nitpicking Nerds. We work together.
Oh.
I am a little lower on this card than Beezy is. I really don't think it goes in many decks. It's not a card I have tried in the past. It's not a card going forward I'll put in any decks except for maybe mono red list exactly.
I'm in for I think it could be good in red, Boros, and potentially red-green. It depends on what you're doing in the red-green deck. But it gives you access to a lot of cards. Way more cards than red usually gives access to. And this is like one of the first cards with the good wording of impulse draws as it doesn't say you can cast until end of turn. It says until your end of your next turn. So if you're about to miss a land drop, tap out, X equals 5, play one of the lands, untap, then play the other 4 cards.
Yeah, I do. I appreciate the good wording. You know what's funny? The best impulse draw that we have right now has the bad wording. It's Jessica's Will. It doesn't matter.
And it turns out that one doesn't matter because it gives you 7 mana.
Yeah, it's so good. Moving on to the next one. Bean Bench. Great name. Solid name. They suggest Wheel of Fate. This goes almost nowhere. It's a wheel, but it has suspend. And if you don't know what a wheel is, you discard your hand and everyone draws 7. Everyone discards, everyone draws 7.
Suspend 4, not just suspend 1.
Yeah, it's just it takes way too long to go off. And if the only way that I think this card is really playable is when you're cascading into it to cheat its cost, or maybe you have other ways to play it from your hand without paying its mana cost, play it from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. Stuff like that makes this card more playable, but it's a huge, huge build around. And honestly, I'm going to avoid it 90% of the time. D.
I think here's the deal. If you are suspending Wheel of Fate and waiting 4 turns for it to resolve, I think you should take it out of your deck. 100%, just get rid of it. If you're casting it for free or you're removing time counters, then go for it. It's going to be close to Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, I think that's a completely fair way to put it. You never want to be suspending this card. Ever. Because if you are, that's a losing proposition. If you had to suspend it on turn 3, 4, or 4, 3, 2, 1. You have to suspend it on one of those turns. Because guess what?
The other turns don't exist.
When you start at turn 5, you have to make it to turn 9 for this to go off.
Do you get one? I don't know. Maybe you don't get a turn 9.
Games end 7, 8, 9, and 10. I mean, you might not make it to 9.
Yeah, but what you are going to make it to is number 14 on our list, submitted by Notion Rain, Sire of Stagnation. It's like the super fair consecrated Sphinx. When they play lands, they exit out 2 cards from their deck, and you draw 2 cards. I like this card just because I think it's super fair, while also being a decent card with a solid impact on the board. Not a higher power card. We have it at C+, but Jerry's recently played against this card.
It's annoying. It's an annoying card to play against. It basically just stops you from playing lands for the time being until you can remove the Sires of Stagnation. There was a second one on our board. Someone cloned it, so we just had 2 of them hanging on the board. That was not fun at all. But the card does have a huge impact on the game. The thing is, the reason I'm not super high in this card is you want it to be card draw, right? You don't want it to be not playing lands. That's okay.
Here it is. It gives your opponent a choice.
Yeah,
don't do that.
Exactly. You're giving your opponent a choice. That's why I'm like C+ is where this grade falls. You don't want to give your opponents choices overall usually.
When you're later in the game, sometimes they can say, "Yeah, I don't even need a land," or "I don't even have a land," and then you're just kind of like, "But I want you to have a land."
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you slam this on turn 4 or 5,
now we're talking.
This card's insane because they can't not play their lands.
Matt Potts wants to know about Massacre Girl, and this is a card that always plays a little bit better than I think it's going to. It's not the best board wipe effect, but actually almost always just kind of wipes the board anyway. And it can work on Reanimate or ATB, so it's a nice card to tutor up. It gives everything -1/-1, and then just whenever something dies this turn, everything else gets -1/-1 again. And Massacre Girl always sticks around.
Yeah, exactly. Massacre Girl doesn't kill herself, luckily. She's smart and not going out there and killing herself. So she just wipes the board away. The main thing is to make sure there's a 1/1 and a 2/2, and then as long as there's 1/1/1 or 2/1/1s, the board's going to get completely wiped away because then now 1/1's died, now 2/2's died, now 3/3's died, and eventually it gets up to 10/10, and guess what? Nothing is surviving that.
Yeah, if you see 2 1/1s, you got the green light to go for this because it's going to work. The only thing to watch out for is that if a player has a sack outlet and all the 1/1s, then this isn't going to work.
Yeah, that is completely true. Massacre Girl is like you said, I don't know if we give it the grade yet, but it's a C+. It's a solid card. It goes in some decks, but it is replaceable in most cases.
There's 8 better options than this. You don't have to play Massacre Girl.
I mean, the thing is, board wipes are really strong, and we have a lot of them, and it's tough to find the excuse to want to put Massacre Girl in your deck.
It might be the best board wipe on a creature, but I won't even, don't quote me on that, but it's up there.
I don't know what's better. I mean, I think it probably is one of the best board wipes on a creature, yes.
That's not saying much. I mean, do we need a board wipe on a creature? Not necessarily.
I mean, I'll take one. It would be an insane creature. If the creature that says, when this creature enters the battlefield, destroy all other creatures, that card's just probably really good.
All others?
Yeah.
That card specifically is like, I guess if you can get Massacre to that card is awful to play against.
Wrath of God on a creature.
I'll flicker it.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty sweet.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Wrath of God on the creature is very strong. Moving on, we have user Zalerdins. That's a name.
Close enough.
Yeah, they suggested Mutavolt. This is a land, makes colorless mana, or you can pay 1 to make it a creature that's a 2/2 that is all creature types. This is an F. I don't see any reason that you need to go to Mutavolt, and I don't know what it's going to provide you that you can't get elsewhere in lands. I'm not interested. I'm not even in like, I can move to a card that's very, very similar. What is it? Mishra's Factory? It's the exact same thing, except it becomes an artifact. And I don't think that card's playable either. Both of these cards just aren't going to make the cut. I'd give it an F. I just don't. Maybe there is a deck I'm missing, but as far as I can see, this card doesn't go anywhere.
It counts towards your creature types in play if you do something like Kindred, Discovery, or whichever the one, not Discovery, but the one that's the green instant that says for each one you have, you go find it.
Summons.
Jesus. Yeah. It works for that. But what tribe are you in where you can afford just a brick colorless land that's relevant like 1% of the time? Nothing 3 colors or more. You're really hurting when you start putting colorless lands in your deck that don't do anything at that point. I think this is better just left out there. Just you don't need it. It's fine. Play a better utility land. There's plenty of them.
Exactly, yeah. Utility lands do a lot. There's a lot of great utility lands that provide a lot of, great utility. And this is just not providing nearly enough utility. I'd say it's almost none.
5.56 Chan is the username of the person who wants to know about Retrofit or Foundry. Retrofit or Foundry we've talked about before, but it's a solid card. So not worth the price, but if you already have one, I think it's a C+. It makes you spend mana to make a servo, and then you can turn it into a Thopter, and then you turn the Thopter into a 4/4. It's done work. This card is a good mana sink. It does things. It's cheap to cast, cheap to get out there. If you're already making Thopters, then it's a free, tap, make a 4/4 basically. But I think it's so replaceable. You gotta be Brutaclad to care about this.
It's a card I'm not buying ever, but if I have it, I'll probably put it in the deck. Maybe
it's okay.
If I have an artifact deck that specifically wants to be doing those kind of things, sure, I can totally see putting it into those decks, but it's just not this insane card. It is a C+, so it is going to perform fairly well, and it's not going to be a dead magic card. It is only 1 mana. You can get it with your Urza Saga and those kind of decks, so that's going to work out all really well. I guess what really makes me, it's like, it is a C+, which is a strong grade, but what just drives me away from this card is the fact that it costs $35.
Yeah, that's not even because of Commander, I don't think. I mean, it's scarce because it was only printed in the Commander cards, but it's got demand from older constructed formats. So don't even look at this and go, it's 35 and a Commander card, it must be good in Commander, because that's not even true. It's just totally fine, and it is an infinite mana outlet in Commander, but those are in pretty high supply.
There's a lot of ways to pay off infinite mana on Commander. Next, Millie suggests one of my favorite cards ever printed, Stolen Goods. 3 and a blue for a sorcery, and target opponent reveals from the top of the library until they're revealing non-land. You get to cast it for free. That's it. I love this card.
Total crapshoot.
I love this card. I have it in a deck. I would never, ever suggest anybody play it, especially from a perspective of power. This is an F. It does not belong in Commander, unfortunately. As much as I love this card, you're rolling a dice on your opponent's deck.
So it's not even a card you want, because if you wanted it, you put it in your deck. So you don't want it that bad. There's so many whiff scenarios. If you play against somebody like me, it's a guaranteed whiff because it's just going to be nonsense on top of their deck.
Yeah, exactly. So you just roll the dice and you see what you hit. And I love playing this card. I think this card is an A for fun, super cool, unique effect. But unfortunately, I do not suggest you play it. F.
Yeah, for power has no homes. Skewer is our next user at number 19, and they say Umezawa's Jite. What about that one? Now I think we're a little split. We're a little split on this one, but it's an equipment. You equip it, you pay 2 to cast, 2 to equip. Now when your creature hits, it gets 2 counters on the Jite, and you can remove them to do one of 3 things. The only relevant one being target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn.
Yes. It also pumps the creature. It can make
there's +2/+2, -1/-1, or gain 2 life.
And I'm not high on this card. It's not like this is a card I'm yelling at you, put it in your deck, Speezy. Why aren't you playing Jite? I think it's a D-. I think there's few and far between commanders that want this. Maybe some double strike commanders or something unique like that. But I'm overall going to tell you to probably avoid this unless you have a home where you're like, I'll show you what this card does. Look at all this stuff and this, and this. And I'm like, okay, now I understand where you're coming from with the card.
My desire to give this a big fat F is so high, but there might be a few decks where your commander has double strike, and because then the +2/+2 becomes relevant. You can commander damage people after already hitting them once. I guess I could see some really, really, really corner case things, but I think this card is mostly bad.
Well, it's even if
playable. How about bad but playable?
Yeah, I think the card is bad. I definitely would agree with that. But what I'm saying is, like, with a double strike commander, you get 4 counters on that turn.
Well, right, but so I guess you could use 2 of the counters right away. If your commander's a 4/4, you hit them for 4, get 2 counters, make it an 8/8, and hit them for 8, so that's 12. Okay, we're getting somewhere, and then you get 2 more counters for later.
Yeah, this card's not busted or
good
or even good. I think there is probably homes for it in Commander in some decks, some niche corner cases, but I would steer you away from this card usually.
Maybe my final word on this is that I think it is severely overplayed.
It's definitely overplayed. I mean, this is a card that I think goes in so few decks, but it's definitely more than it should be because of its power in other formats.
And coolness, general coolness. Last one, Cherries. What is it?
It's suggested by Steeds, and it's Akroma's Will, a card that we've tried and played and seen, and it actually won the first episode of gameplay of Shuffle Scuffle. It was really good. Akroma's Will is a very strong card. It's 4 mana and for an instant, and you get a slew of keywords. You get half of them in one part and half in the other, and you usually have to choose one, but if you have your commander, you just get both. This card is a win condition that doubles as protection from your board. I don't know where else you could ever potentially get that. It's extremely unique. Now, I think it's a B. I don't think this is quite sneaking into the A range. You need to be a deck that cares about attacking, that can put large amounts of powers on board, and can take advantage of both sides, both the protection and the attacks completely wipe somebody outside.
I think I'm a little hesitant to call this like a protection spell just because I don't know of too many boards where I'm trying to like push through a bunch of damage and then also hold this up. Because if I could hold it up, why didn't I just play it? But maybe if you just put your board into play and then you want to wait one more turn, you can do it. But the fact that you can do it is just extra gravy on top. This card is like exactly what combat decks need because it's the Nitpicking Nerds backup plan. It's like I can't win with combat damage. This almost doesn't even count because it just skips the whole blocking part. You can't do that. And then basically doubles your life total and just kills 2 people or kills 1 player.
Yeah, exactly. It lets you take control of combat essentially. Nobody's blocking. You're getting through a ton of damage. Yeah,
double the damage that you would have got through.
The only creatures they can block with are their artifact flyers.
Yep.
How many artifact flyers do you think your opponent has? Because I'll tell you what, it probably ain't many.
As a side note, I think we should petition to give Wormcoil Engine flying. What do you think?
No.
Just put it on the card.
I mean, you could. Isn't there a card that gives tokens flying?
Is that Curiosity Crafter? Maybe not.
I think there is a card.
Might be a card. There's a card from like Amonkhet that does it.
Should have been playing that.
Should have been playing that.
You fool. But that is all the cards we're going over for today. Special shout outs to all of our patrons. Love you guys all as much as we can without making you uncomfortable. You're scrolling on screen right now. Thank you for all the support that you give us that lets us do this full time. We appreciate you from the bottom of our hearts.
From the bottom of my heart, and my stomach is like rumbling as I'm saying that because I haven't eaten food today. You gotta do that, people. TCG player link in the description if you want to support the channel while buying cards you already were going to buy. The only thing that changes is you started with this link, and it basically creates money in our pockets.
Yes, exactly. You're supporting the YouTube channel you love while buying the Magic cards you love. You can also do the same with sleeves to protect the Magic cards you love because you love them. You love Magic cards? Well, I would suggest sleeving them because not playing them in sleeves damages them real quick. Dragon Shield's literally the best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
Yes, exactly. Good sleeves, BZ. You can go to our links in the description below, EU and US links down there. Guess what? Click either one of them. Buy the sleeves you should buy anyway because they're amazing, and we get a kickback on the order.
It makes me think of you could use the TCG player link and the Dragon Shield link, but if you only use the TCG player link, your cards are going to get beat up, and you're just going to have to use the TCG player link again. So you're stuck using 2 of our links anyway.
Yeah, you should use. I mean, Dragon Shield is amazing, and TCG player is amazing. We actively already use both of them all the time.
Yeah, how about a tidbit about our lives? We just started watching a show, and we're like halfway through it. It's Midnight Mass on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Show's amazing.
I mean, I don't know. I can't say amazing yet because we are 4 episodes in.
As far as first 4 episodes go, I mean.
Because like it could fall off so hard. Because it's like one of those things where it's like, even if the first 4 episodes were extremely enjoyable, if the last 3 are total butts, it'll
tank it.
I mean,
so far, I'm happy with what I've seen.
That would be half the show, yeah. That
right.
Butt soup. But hopefully, the first 4 episodes have been good and we've been enjoying it, and hopefully it just gets better.
Well, that's also the people who did Hill House and Blind Manor, so now this. So that's 3 in a row, and I just like all these. I feel like they kind of get how to make a horror show, and I feel like other horror shows and horror movies like suck for the most part.
The horror is a tough genre to execute.
People do not stick the landing on that one.
Yeah, and there is a lot of good horror out there, but there's a lot of bad horror. And
a lot of Insidious movies out there.
Yeah, like I just can't stand. I don't want to watch the jump scare movie. And like I'm not even saying jump scares are the worst because they can be used to great effect. I mean, watch Hill House. There's a jump scare.
They don't like screw with you and jump scare you every 5 seconds because what's actually scary is building up a scene. But what some of the horror movies that do that are so crappy is they get you in the theater with showing you every scare in the movie in just the trailer, and then the rest of the movie is just like build up to that. They just throw stupid jump scares at you, get you to go, whoa, like that was crazy, and then you remember it in the theater. You're like, well, man, it made me jump, so it must have been scary.
Yeah, Hill House literally just there's like no jump scares, but there's a really good jump scare.
They'll get you exactly once, and you'll be like, I accept this. This is okay.
They got us good. They got us real good. But later, guys. Peace out, Tribe Scouts.